right, we are here. Playbook to Prosperity with my friend Jeff Allen. Jeff and Marissa Allen have started an amazing company called Cookie Society, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, we're going to get into some fun stuff. So we're going to ask Jeff some rapid questions. And come on, Jeff, come with the good answers, all right? So
I got you.
What teammate did you play with that had the strangest pregame, don't talk about what it was, but pregame ritual?
I'm going to say Eric Fisher.
Okay, another offensive lineman. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
What teammate did you play with that was most likely to either lose their keys, their cell phone, or their helmet?
Travis Kelce.
That's a great one. All right. Who was the worst one at playing video games?
I'll probably say the oldest guy. I'd probably say like a Dustin Colquitt. They're specialists.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of time to do things, so they probably usually do golf and stuff like that. And when they're not playing golf, they're with the family.
Got it. Okay. Who had the most questionable fashion choices?
There's a lot of guys. It's a tough one. Most questionable fashion choices, I would go with. I'll go Vince Wilfork. He used to wear overalls on game days.
All right. Last of these goofy questions is not so goofy though. Who do you wish you would have played with that you didn't play with during your playing career?
Reggie White.
Oh,
I grew up wanting to be like Reggie White. Although I grew up in Chicago,
right,
and he was a Packer during my time as a child. Everything about him made me love football, and that was the first jersey I ever got. And yeah, Reggie White. Even though I played offensive line, I wanted to be him.
Right. Now let's talk about just how you got into football, right? Before we get into your NFL career. So, when did you start playing? Why did you start playing?
I started playing football at the age of 9. And my mom really didn't want me to play it. So my uncle, who ended up being my coach in high school, one of my biggest mentors, he played at the University of Miami from 1987 and 90.
Okay.
He was roommates with Russell Maryland, both Chicago guys. Won a lot of games there. So I didn't quite know about his career because I was a baby.
Right.
But I did know he played football. But my interest really came from just knowing that a little bit, but also watching it on TV a lot with family and seeing Reggie White club people and seeing him sack the quarterback. And my mom really wanted me to wait. She knew the contact involved with it. But I could remember kids in my neighborhood, walking around with their helmet pads and their helmet and shoulder pads.
Right.
And I was like, man, I want to do this so bad. Like, where's the park? And they told me, and I snuck out the house one day. So I was a 9-year-old. The park was about a mile from my house.
Oh, wow.
I snuck out the house, and I went to the park. Obviously, I was bigger than what I looked. I was bigger than my age. Okay. So I looked like a 11, 12-year-old, but I was only 9.
Okay.
I get to the park. I lie about my age, and I sign up for the team, kind of on my own. One of the first things I had to do was run a lap. And I ran a lap, and I was like, man, I don't know if I like football. But I did that, and my mom was looking for me the entire day.
Oh, wow.
And I was trying out for the football team. Ended up making the team. I was supposed to be 10. I was 9. And the rest was history.
That's awesome. Now, did you play offensive line throughout your whole playing career?
No. So when I first started playing, I played linebacker, fullback.
Okay.
That was like Pee Wee football for me. Then as I got older and I got to high school, I was in the trenches. I was O-line, D-line. I was the punter. I was the kicker.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I did all those things. I was a big athlete. They call guys, offensive linemen, they call us the big guys, right?
Right.
And I try to tell guys we're big skill. They call it little guys skill positions. And they don't realize how skilled you have to be an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. It's big skill. So we're athletes too. I grew up playing tons of sports, not just football. I played baseball. I did tennis for a little bit,
Okay.
basketball. Chicago's a basketball city.
Right.
Baseball. I did everything that I could do on the sports side of things. It's just I just was built for football, and that was happened to be the one I love the most.
So if you didn't play football, what would be your second best sport?
Baseball.
Okay.
I was a really good baseball player. So is my son. I mean, he has the same hand-eye coordination, great hitter. Just has the natural ability and knack for it. I think just where I grew up, I mean, baseball wasn't a huge thing. I mean, I grew up in the inner city of Chicago.
Yeah.
Although I loved it, it's just you're capped. There's so far you can go with it unless you get the development or you get on the club team, and that just wasn't in the cards for me. So,
right.
I leaned into football.
That's crazy. Yeah, I grew up in St. Louis. I can relate. Yeah. St. Louis and Kansas City, so I can relate. So that's awesome. So when did you know that you were really good at football? I mean, were you obviously were bigger than most kids in youth football,
yeah.
So you had to have done pretty well then too.
I was really good then. I always dreamed about going to the NFL. That was one of my goals from the first time I stepped foot on the field. I knew that's what I wanted to do for a living. I knew I wanted to be. I talked about it like Reggie White. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the opportunity to not only play the game that I love. I wanted the opportunity to change my family's life, and I was able to do that, and I'm so thankful for it. But I knew I was really good at it from the start. I never lost my confidence. I wasn't a highly recruited guy. I was a late bloomer. It took me a little bit of time to develop. Even though I was good, I just had to grow into my body. I was clumsy at times. I was a little bit bigger than I needed to be. I got to high school. I was, 290 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Closer to 300 pounds. So I'm a bigger guy. So, a lot of times the coaches wanted to see something else. And I wasn't in the greatest shape. So I really had to scrap and claw to do all the right things and figure it out. And I didn't get my first Division I scholarship until, head into my senior season. A lot of times, you're recruited, you're getting that,
junior,
freshman year guys, sophomore, junior.
Right.
I didn't get in until, I went to a one-day camp. That's how I got my scholarship. And there was a guy on my team who's one of my best friends. His name's Miles Schroeder. He was top 25 in the country, number 2 offensive lineman. Tons of scouts were coming to see him. He had everybody you can think of, Pete Carroll, like all the major colleges, USC, Notre Dame, coming to visit him, coming to our games. And a lot of times they would see me and they would say, man, I love the way that he plays. He's really aggressive. I always worked really hard. I always finish. But I'm like, we need to see him, look a little bit better or be in a little bit better shape, or you need to do this or that. So it was always, but, when it came to me. So, I never got down about it. I took the criticism and I was like, you know what? I need to get better. And I remember the guy who recruited me from Illinois, Reggie Mitchell. He was the first one to really pull me aside and really tell me like details. Like, this is what we need. We need to see you lose at least 20 pounds. We need to see you, finish the game the way that you start the game. We need to see, that aggression also have some discipline. So all of that stuff, I took it and I took note of it. And these were things that, my coaches were telling me. It's just as a kid, sometimes it doesn't register.
Right.
And I took those critiques and I got the opportunity to go down on one-day camp and they tried to kill me. They tried to kill me. So you look good. First off, I lost the weight. So visually they were like, okay, I can tell you've been working. And so they were like, we're going to really see and put you through the fire. So every opportunity they got, they tested me mentally and physically. I was the first guy in line and oftentimes the only guy doing the drill. I mean, before the next drill. So they were just trying to see if I could get through it. And I did at the end of that camp. I ended up getting a scholarship, my first one. And I took it on the way back home. I called them on the way back from Champaign. I said, look, I want to be here. It's 2.5 hours from home.
Right.
At the time, there was a lot of Chicago kids going there, a lot of people that I knew. Ron Zook was the coach. They were on the up and up, and I just knew it would be a good opportunity for me. And I'm so thankful for Reggie Mitchell giving me those details, and then the offensive line coach at the time, Eric Wolford. He stood on the table for me. A lot of those things where they said, but he saw it as a strength for me.
Yeah.
And he saw something in me that a lot of people didn't. I always believed, but he was really the first person, that was a decision maker that really believed in me the way that I believed. So I appreciate him for that. I tell him all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you did well there, right?
Yeah, I did well. I ended up going mid-year. So I'm so thankful I was able to do that. I graduated high school a semester early, so I went in the spring before majority of the freshmen. There were probably like 5 of us there.
Right.
And I was able to get winter conditioning in. I was really able to see that I really wasn't in great shape. I really wasn't. It's grueling. I mean, we call it 6 a.m.s. Those are, the days where you get up and you're really getting after it in the weight room. Conditioning it's at its height. Like summer's really tough. Training camp's really hard, but you make your most gains in the off season. And I was able to see I wasn't in shape. So I did everything. I was first guy in, last guy to leave. I'm doing extra every single lift, every single spring ball practice I'm staying after. And it all paid off. So when it got to the summer, I was in pretty decent shape and I didn't go back home. I stayed there the entire summer. And when it came time for fall camp, I was ready. And when my opportunity came, I never let it go. It was due to injury. But if I didn't put in all that work and I didn't prepare, I would have lost it all. Who knows where I'd be, right? It'd probably be, I gave that kid an opportunity or I got it because of injury and then I didn't perform. And then maybe the coaches lose their trust or maybe the coaches that weren't on my side say, yeah, see, this is what I was telling you, But instead, I was able to prove myself right and a lot of people wrong.
Right.
Because I never lost faith. I knew what I had to do and I continued to prepare and the opportunity came, I was ready.
So where do you think that drive came from? Because clearly there was a switch that flipped. I mean, you're right. A guy gave you a message and direction, but there was a lot of self-motivation. Be first in, last out. Where did all that come from?
Yeah, I mean, it just came from just the circumstances, man. Like I grew up with nothing. So a lot of the times it would be, thinking it was a point of reference. That grit and that toughness came from just the environment that I was in. And I thought about like, if I don't push through this, then what's it going to be like, right? What's going to be left for me? I'm going to go back home and do what? Right. I can remember my first spring practice because I spent that entire winter conditioning, doing all of that. And I was struggling, but I always knew I was good at football.
Right.
Like lifting weights and running, that's important. It makes you a better football player. But, sometimes people are weight room warriors and can't play a lick of football.
Right.
So I always knew that I could play football, right? And my coach would say it all the time, you look like Tarzan, play like Jane. Right? And I never wanted to be a guy like that.
Right.
So I wasn't, appearance is everything sometimes, but like sometimes looks can be deceiving. So I was always one of those guys where I didn't look like Tarzan, but I played like him. And I hung my hat on that and I was going to play tough and I was going to finish. So during that time, when I first got there in the winter, when I wasn't making runs, when I wasn't doing the best in lifts, I just kept saying in the back of my mind, wait until we put on the pads. Just wait until we actually play some real football. And the first day of spring practice, I put my knee braces on backwards. I never. Yeah. So I never wore knee braces before. Right. I got my knee braces on backwards. And I had a really tough day, man. Like I'm cramping just because, I have my knee braces on backwards. It wasn't a good day for me. I'm playing with the 2s and 3s, so I'm going double duty.
Right.
So and just pushing me, right? And it was still to this day one of the hardest days of my life. And I can remember leaving that field and thinking, like, man, like, can I play football?
Oh, wow.
Like I really had doubt. That was the first time I had doubt about football.
Right.
And I called my mom that night and I had the conversation, that I'm having with you. I'm like, Mom, I don't know. I've always been confident in football. And this is the first time where I felt like defeated. Like I had all those moments in the winter, never once called her. I'm getting yelled at. I'm not making runs. I'm like internalizing. I'm waiting for spring ball.
Right.
First day, I'm like, Mom, I just don't know. And she said, son, she's like, this will be, you'll look back on this and you'll realize that this is going to be the hardest day and it'll only get easier from here.
Mm. That's wisdom for somebody who didn't play the game, right? That's just
yeah. So I took that, and then she just was like, "You have to realize why you're there. You're there to get an education. You have an opportunity of a lifetime. There's so many people that want to do what you're doing right now. Like, so you need to be mentally strong and realize that this is just a part of it. And what's here for you." Literally, she's like, think about that. What's here for you? And that's when I was like, it's time to gut up. And I had to figure it out. And from that moment, I just was like chipping away. It was like chopping wood. Every day from that spring ball practice first day to leading up to that first fall camp, I was just chopping wood. Every day it was in my mind. I was like, I'm going to get better every single day, 1% better. Like at the time, that wasn't the mindset, but that's what I was doing. Every day I was trying to find ways to be better than I was the previous day. And it all added up. It was baby steps until a giant leap. And when the opportunity came, like I said, I was ready. I ended up starting my freshman year as a true freshman. And I never looked back. I had the most consecutive starts in Illinois history.
Wow.
And it was just because of just the mind.
Right.
Just the mind. It was just mental.
So I have a question, though. How did you figure out that your knee braces were on backwards?
My roommate told me when we got back into the locker room, he was like, dude, your knee braces are on backwards. And I was like, what? And I looked down. He was like, yeah. I was like, he's like, they were like that the whole practice. I was like, yeah. He's like, no wonder you couldn't move.
Oh, wow.
No wonder you couldn't move. And I was just cramping up. Like it was extremely painful. They were digging into the side of my knees and legs.
Right.
It hurt really bad, but like, I just thought it's just how I felt. I was like, that's how I feel. It's like, I'm just going to gut through it. It just was, I'll figure it out. And I've been that way my whole life, man. No matter how hard it is, I really have the confidence that I'll figure it out.
So tell me about your experience getting into the NFL. What was that like?
It was amazing. I finished my career at Illinois. I ended up being a second-round pick. Got drafted by the Chiefs.
Right.
That was the first time where I felt like I was wanted, right?
Okay, yep.
Like I was, so I worked extremely hard, had a great college career, and, I was projected as a first to third round player. It was all over the board because I was a tweener. I played tackle in college, but wasn't quite big enough to be a tackle, but kind of could slide in and be a good guard. So a lot of teams were up in the air on my valuation and what they saw me as. But they all saw me as a day one starter, which was really good was good for my confidence. And I ended up getting drafted in the second round. I thought I would go to the Cowboys. I actually sat in Jerry's office and he kind of told me he was going to draft me if I was there in the second round. But they end up trading their second round pick to move up in the draft.
Okay.
To get a higher first round pick. And so I knew that was off the board. That was the only team that pretty much told me that they were going to draft me. So after that happened, I was like, I don't know where I'm going.
Right.
And when my phone rang, Miami was on the clock. So I thought I was going to the Dolphins. It was the first pick of the second round.
Okay.
And I picked up the phone and it was Kansas City.
Huh.
And they were like, hey, if you're still here at pick 44, we're going to pick you.
Wow.
And that was the first call. And they gave me a heads up, talked to my agent about it, hung up. And then it gets closer to the pick. It gets the pick right before 44. And then they call back and congratulations, you're a Chief. We're getting ready to turn in the call. I talked to, the GM at the time, the head coach at the time, the O-line coach, the owner. And room went crazy. And I could remember, what the heck's in Kansas City?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know anything about Kansas City besides Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road.
Right.
I'm thinking I'm going somewhere in just the country. Like I'm a city boy.
Right.
And I'm like, man, because in my mind, I thought I was going to Miami when the phone first rang, and then it's Kansas City. But honestly, it was the best possible fit. It's one of the best places in the world, in my opinion, and it's great for a young player.
Right.
The people there in the town, the way it's constructed, it's really like a college atmosphere. So it's a good transition. And at the time, the team was really family oriented. There were a lot of older guys. There were husbands. There were fathers. So it wasn't the NFL that you would see on TV or the stereotypical NFL. It was really a really good locker room of great men, which was good for me as a young player. I was able to see that, and it helped my development. I got there and I wasn't first time playing guard. I got moved to guard. I had a little bit of struggles, my first half of the season, but I had a lot of veterans that were in my ear. Like, look, dude, like we've all struggled. We've all been there. It's very rare for a rookie to come in and play well right off the bat. Like, just take these as learning lessons. And they would coach me up. I would stay after practice. They all poured into me, and including the coaches. It just was a good place to be for me. And I was thankful to have that strong support system. And I was able to, turn that into a 9-year career because of guys like Brandon Albert, Ryan Lilja, Eric Winston. I can remember those guys like pulling me to the side, like really encouraging me when I hit that rookie wall and I dealt with, stress at the highest level that I've never dealt with before. Because it's not football that changes when you go to the NFL. Football is football. Everyone's good, right? Like we all there for a reason.
Right.
But it's all the outside noises that change. You come into a bunch of money. Your family dynamics change. Your relationship with friends change. You got people pulling you off from all different parts of your life. And it has nothing to do with football. It's just because they see you. And sometimes it's an opportunity for some people. And for a young guy, that could be really hard to process and still have to play at the highest level against the best athletes in the world.
Yeah, I've heard story after story, and it never ceases to amaze me how human behavior changes for NFL players and all the friends and connections and people you haven't heard from for quite a while become your best.
I never had more cousins in my life, man. Like it's tough, man. I mean, you got to think about your name goes across that ticker on ESPN. That's when you get drafted, your name gets put in, and then you sign your contract, that's on the ticker. So everyone sees what you're making.
Right.
And a lot of times it's just from lack of people not understanding, like, one, that what you see on TV isn't the actual number.
Right.
Then you got to take into account taxes, agent fees, if you have an advisor, all that. Then you have to live your life too with a contract that's not guaranteed. So it's hard. I mean, and when you're young, you a lot of times you want to help so many people.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to. That's just a natural human reaction. We all are empathetic. Like we all want to help.
Right.
And it can become conflicting, and your mind will start playing tricks on you. That's why I tell guys to just slow down, take a breath, educate yourself, and understand that you can help people, but there's a way that you do it.
So what is that advice? If a young guy is just coming into the league, what would you tell them if you had like 1 minute to give them words of wisdom? What would it be?
Words of wisdom I'll give them? Whatever you dreamed of doing financially for others, take a second. Don't do it immediately. Educate yourself. One of the first things that I wanted to do when I first got to the NFL was buy my mom a house. I think that's most of our dreams. I wanted to make sure my mom was good, put her in a good situation. And I can remember Ryan Lilja asked me when I signed my contract, he's like, "Congratulations, Rook." He's like, "What's the first thing you're going to buy?" And I told him, "I'm going to buy my mom a house." And he said, "Don't do it." And I was offended by it.
Right.
Like I really was. I was like, "What the heck do you mean? Like, don't buy my mom a house. Like I worked this hard. I'm going to buy my mom a house." And he's like, "No." He's like, "I'm not saying don't take care of your mother. You're going to still take care of your mom, but don't commit to buying a home until you know exactly the trajectory of your career. Right? This money is not guaranteed." He's like, "You don't know where you'll be 1-2 years from now." He's like, "I've seen it." At the time, he was 9 years in. Because I've seen guys come and go. He's like, you can buy your mom a house 2 years from now. Let's just say it's done. You can buy your mom a house 2 years from now. You made decent money. You can still buy your mom a house, but the worst thing you can do now is buy your mom something that you can't keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sustain. You can't pay the taxes. You can't keep up with the maintenance of the home. You can't keep up with the lifestyle. Or you can underbuy, right? Maybe you buy her something and you think she deserves more. It's like, well, let's just say 3 years from now, you get a new contract. 4 years from now, your rookie contract expires. He's like, you don't have to deal with getting her out of the house. He's like, regardless, she's going to have to move. Whether you can't afford it anymore or you want to buy her something new. Like, just lease her something until you get to that second deal. Because I was a second round pick. Like, it's good money,
Right?
But it's not, sit on the couch the rest of your life money. It's not going to change your entire life. It's a good head start. So it was the perfect advice. It just depends on where you are financially, what you can do, and being smart with your money. He's like, take that money, invest it, get you a good advisor, and do the right things. And they'll mature, and you'll make more money, and then you'll get a second deal, God willing.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to do what you want.
Which you had a long career.
Yeah, I had a long career. I was able to get a second deal. I was able to do all of those things, and I didn't personally buy my first house until year 7 in the NFL.
Well,
right?
You were a smart man.
Yeah, I didn't personally buy a house until year 7. I stayed very lean. There's a lot of things that I did my rookie year, not personally, but just I gave a lot of money away. I'm just out the kindness of my heart, and I was okay with that because I sacrificed, and I was smart enough on the personal side where I could do those things. I was like, you know what? I very much rather, instead of getting a watch or buying a really nice car, I very much rather help someone. And, that's what I did a lot of my rookie contract. And I looked up and I was like, okay, that was before I really started to really understand helping people in a different way, giving people opportunity rather than just giving away money. And my rookie deal, I was just giving away money, and I was giving away my earned income. And I can remember my advisor was like, hey, if you give someone, $50,000, that's really $100,000 of your earned income. You got to think of it that way. And every time you give it away, just think about it's double. Think of double it, right? That's your earned income that you're giving away. And I was just doing that, and I really was okay with it, honestly. And I wasn't in a terrible position. But as I got older and matured and realized that you want to be able to create opportunities for people so they can self-sustain. And that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. So let's shift gears, go away from football for a minute, and let's talk about, well, first of all, you met your wife in college, correct?
Yeah, I met my wife in college.
She was a soccer player, right? Yeah,
she played soccer. I met her my junior year in the training room. That's where I first met her.
Oh, wow.
And we shared a training room at the University of Illinois All Sports. I was actually in there a little bit earlier. Like, we had time slots. So the women's soccer team would be the earliest slot.
Okay.
But I was dual majoring, so my class schedule wouldn't allow me to go at the football time. So I would go in really early when the women's soccer team was there. So I'm over in the corner, with my headphones on, and my wife was in there, and she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was just all bubbly and happy, and she had never seen me before, so she came and said hi to me. And she was just really happy. And it was like 7 a.m. I'm like, why are you so happy? I'm upset. I'm in here hurt. And kind of said hi to her and put my headphones back on, and just wasn't in the greatest mood.
Right.
And I can remember thinking, like, man, she was just really pretty. Didn't think much about it outside of that. And then I saw her like 2 months later at a bar.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's that girl that said hi to me in the training room. I'm going to go ask her out, which I did. And then she turned me down. She was like, all you football players are the same, basically. I was like, okay, cool. And so I took it on the chin. And then probably like 2 weeks later, she sends me a friend request on Facebook. So I'm like, okay, so she must be interested. She sent me a friend request. Like she looked for me online. And I think she put up like a Facebook status that said, I think it's really a weird time that, guys don't ask for phone numbers anymore. They ask for your Facebook. And I said, yeah, that is really weird. That's crazy. What's your number? And that's how I got her phone number. And then we went on our first date, and we've been dating ever since. So
That's awesome.
really the best decision that I've ever made. And that's the one piece of advice that I would tell guys. That's the most important piece of advice. It would be finding the right partner in life, right? Because marriage isn't just about love. I love my wife to death, but she is the perfect partner for me. Her strengths are my weaknesses. She fills the gaps for me, and I do the same for her. And I make much better decisions because of her, right? She's in my mind. My family's in my mind. I'm not just out here thinking about 1,000 women, right? I got this strong foundation at home, and I got a loving wife, who's a loving mother. And I have wonderful children, and I want to continue to build for them. And that makes you make much more sound decisions as a man. And I would tell anybody that if you get someone, and it could go the opposite way. If you pick the wrong partner, it could go the other way. You could be making really bad decisions. That person could be taking advantage of you. That person could be selfish. That person could be in it for just the money, and not want to build with you, but just take from you until there's nothing left. So pick the right person.
That's awesome. And not only is she an amazing wife and mother, but she's also your business partner.
Yes, she's my business partner too.
So let's talk about how did Cookie Society all come about? What was the very beginning?
The very beginning was, just really with my wife. She's always been a person that brought people together with food, right? We are the host family. We've been that way my entire career. Anytime we're doing something, it's going to be around the kitchen table, right? We're going to be eating food, having a good time, and just having good communication, talking, enjoying our friends, our family. We always did it through food. And same for when we traveled, right? We're foodies. We would always go to the best places, in different cities or countries. And our itinerary was based around that. And in 2017, we were in New York City, and we stopped at this place called Levain Bakery. It was near Central Park at the time. They have a lot more locations now. But I think that was their first location, I want to say.
Okay. And
we stood in line for like 45 minutes. And I can remember thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, who stands in line
that would be me.
for 45 minutes for a bakery? And like, this is just absolutely crazy. So we get to the front of the line, and it's in this really small, it's probably like 200 square feet. I don't know how big. It's really small, but we go downstairs, and all they have was 4 cookies and 1 croissant. And I asked the lady behind the register, I said, hey, you guys done out for the day? She said, no, this is all that we sell. And I'm even more upset. I'm like, I waited in line just for cookies. Just for, yeah. So we get the cookies. We walk across the street to Central Park. We sit on the bench. We eat the cookies. And like, when I tell you, my mind was blown. Like, it was one of the best experiences when it not just came to dessert, but food in general. And I remember looking at my wife, and she felt the same. And we start calling people. Like, I'm calling family. I'm calling friends. I'm like, this is crazy in New York. It's crazy. And I literally sat on the bench, and I ordered cookies and shipped them to friends. I spent like $300 on cookies. I'm just sending them to different people. Like, you got to try this. And I looked at my wife and I said, yeah, you can't make anything like this. Just joking with her. Like, she's competitive, college athlete. And it was just for the purpose of reverse psychology, so she could go home and make it for me. It was no business in mind. There was just, I want this. I don't want to have to spend $100 for cookies to get them shipped to my house.
Right.
So she went home. We got back to Texas. She tried to recreate the Levain recipe. Couldn't figure it out. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to make a cookie that, I think is best. So she started with a traditional chocolate chip, which was amazing. And then she made a banana pudding cookie. Oh. And that's when my mind was blown. So I started looking online for banana pudding cookie recipes. Didn't exist at the time. There was no digital footprint. I'm sure someone probably made it before, but I didn't see anything about it online. So I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So I'm like, what else can you make into a cookie? So she starts getting really having fun with it. Started getting really innovative, making all different things that aren't traditionally cookies into cookies. And I started taking them to the locker room, giving the teammates, coaches, give them to family and friends when they came over. And everyone said the same thing. This is ridiculous and the best cookie I've ever had. And in 2017, it was December of 2017, one of my teammates asked to order some for the holidays.
Okay.
I want to have this. And my wife was like, I'm not selling these to him. I'm just going to give them to him. Like, I'm not in the business.
Right.
And that's when I was like, you know what, maybe we should start a business. Like, I've been telling you, these are the best cookies. He's willing to give you some money for it. I guarantee you a lot more people would do the same. And then that's when we started to really sit down and really talk about making it into a business. We sat at that table in 2017. It was December. From December, it was probably like a 3-week process. Like, we wrote a business plan. We figured out the name. We got all the intellectual property. We trademarked everything, and we organized. And we were like, this is it. And we're going to go for it. And I said, we may not be able to go all out right now because I'm still playing, but let's continue to work on this. Let's prove the concept. We started shipping nationwide. She used her platform. She was a food blogger at the time, had a decent following. I used my platform anytime I had a chance. I talked about cookies, and we just were doing it that way. And it was really organic. I pretty much built the first website. We didn't put a bunch of money into it. We really wanted to prove the concept. And that's one thing I would tell anybody getting into business.
Right.
When you're starting something up, like, you don't want to just throw a bunch of money at it, right? You want to prove the concept first.
Amen.
You want to take your time. You don't want to fast track it, right? You see companies do that, and majority of them fail.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're personally financed, if it's venture capital backed. Like, if you don't take your time, you're going to miss a step.
Yeah, market research is critical, right?
It's critical, and we really wanted to prove it, right? So when we first started it, we didn't want to just go into our pockets and throw a bunch of money at it and hope that it worked. We wanted to prove it, and a lot of it was just using our common sense, but I would really say just listening to our inner voices, and that's God. Like, God was moving us in the right direction. This is what we were supposed to be doing. I was playing ball at the time. She was at home with the kids while doing this, and we really just said, let's see where this goes, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and that's how it's happened.
It's incredible. And then, what year was it that you guys made Oprah's favorite list?
That was 2020.
20.
And 2020, and that's the timing of it, right? And this is what I tell folks. Like, we work extremely hard. We've done everything we can do. We've done our due diligence, we research, but a lot of times in business, sometimes you got to get lucky, right? And also you got to have, God's favor. And we've had both. We've had luck. We've had God favor. And we've worked really hard, and it was the right time. When we decided to do it, I retired. Like, I decided to walk away from football. I could continue playing. I think I could have played 3-4 more years. Like, I wasn't in that terrible of shape, but I was thinking about my life after football.
Right.
I was dealing with some injuries. I had a few concussions up to that point, and I just was really, given what we know now about football, I was just thinking about my life after.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to walk away. It's a hard decision, but this is what I'm going to do. And when I walk away, I'm going to invest into this, not just financially. I'm going to put my time into this to, support my wife and give her the same support that she gave me while I was playing, right? She could have been doing a lot of things, but she sacrificed to her family. And I quickly realized how hard of a sacrifice that is, because I was at home with the kids and I was like, yo, you have a lot of patience. This is but it taught me so much, and it strengthened our relationship. Because I had a greater appreciation for what she did. And I always appreciated her, but a lot of the times you don't have that perspective because you lack it.
Right.
And it's the same when you become a parent. Like, I've always loved my mom. I've always been a mama's boy. But the moment I had kids, I loved her even more.
Right.
Like, because now I understand the sacrifices that she made. Now I understand mentally, I can't imagine what she was going through with the lack of support, being a single mother, working her tail off just to make ends meet while still trying to support us in our endeavors. I understand that now as a grown up, as a man, as a father, as a husband. I understand that now. And my love for her grew. And it's the same for my wife. When I wasn't at work all the time and I was at home with the kids, and I was picking up a little bit and I was doing some of the things that she was doing, I was like, yeah, you really sacrificed a lot for us, and I really appreciate it. So I wanted to make sure that I gave her that full support. And it's not a mistake that this is happening. I think if you support each other and you lean on each other and you build a strong foundation, you can build as tall of a building as you want.
Absolutely. I have to share with you, I actually texted you last week. I was in your South Lake Cookie Society store.
Yeah.
But the cool part is you were talking about your experience in New York, right? Mm-hmm. While I was in your store, there was somebody that was in town for a convention, but they were from Wisconsin.
Yep.
And they had a little bit extra time, and they had heard about Cookie Society. And they were on the phone for quite a while. They were letting other people go ahead because they were taking orders from friends and family to send back. So there you go. Full circle moment, right?
Full circle moment for sure. And it's really cool to see. That's the most humbling part. It's just to see the community support. And we have a bunch of people invested in Cookie Society. But our number one supporters are our customers.
Right.
And they spread the word more than anyone. And that's the best, honestly. The word of mouth marketing, that's the best. When you can, like every Cinnamon Roll Sunday, I'll go and I'll stand out there and I'll interact with the people in line and I'll listen to the conversations. And a lot of times there's new people in the line and the person in front of them has been there before and they're turning around and telling them about their experience and how much they love it and how much you're going to love it and what to get. And I'm just like, I'm blown away by it every single time. And I'm so thankful for it. And that's why we do it. That's exactly why we do it. It's not just about, the money.
Right.
It's about that experience. And that's how it started. My wife wanted to build something that was community based where people can have those moments and we've done it.
Well, it's not an accident though, that they have that experience because I've witnessed how you two treat the people that work with you within society. And you guys are very intentional about how you talk with them because it's how you want them to talk to their customers.
Exactly. When you talk about building culture, that's the number one thing that you have to build when you're trying to build a sustainable organization. I've been fortunate to be around some really good leaders, and I would say one of the best is Andy Reid. And he does a really good job of doing that and building a good culture where people can be themselves, right? Obviously, you have your policies, your procedures. You have to be within the lines, but he's not trying to change who you are within those lines. And he's one of the best at doing it. And a lot of one of my good friends, he went to West Point, Armed Force guy, and he said this to me one day. And he said it's a big thing that they talk about. He said no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And that's what we try to do. Right. We're not just trying to make you get something done, just for the sake of the organization. Like this is to the benefit of us all. Right. You matter just as much as the next man or woman. Like everyone is pivotal in this. And it's an environment that fosters, positive reinforcement. We're not just coming in telling you you're not doing a good job and how to get better. Right. We're in here telling you you're doing great. Right. If there is some changes that need to be made, now you know that, well, he's told me I've done great before.
Yeah.
Now, when he tells me that's something that needs to change or get better, it's not just negative.
Right.
Right. You have to be positive. And that positive does have to outweigh the negative. And the best leaders that I've been around have done that.
That's awesome. So what's next for you guys?
What's next for us? Well, we want to continue to open stores here in the DFW. Our full intention has always been to take over the Dallas market, the DFW market. We want to be the best cookie here. We want to build that loyal fan base here. This is a huge market. There's a vast amount of different markets within this market. The DFW is so far spread. We could be in Frisco, but when we go to South Lake, it's a totally different demo, a different market. There's people that don't know who we are there.
Right.
And so we have to build the trust with that community. And we're going to slowly do that here in the DFW. And when we feel like we are officially the cookie of the DFW, that's when we'll think about leaving here. Because now we have an entire, metroplex and surrounding areas that can vouch for us when we go out of this place. And that's what we want to do.
Well, Dallas-Fort Worth is a huge marketplace, so it's not just a small country town.
No, it's not just a small country town. There's so many places. There's so much opportunity here. And I think we're on the right track with it. I think we've been really intentional with what we've been doing, and I want to stick to it. I think, and I don't want to knock anybody's companies, but I think a lot of companies, they want to fast track things for the sake of, money, right?
Right.
There's a time and place for that. Obviously, you want to be there's timing, right? I mean, a lot of people have seen what I use Crumble as an example. Mm-hmm. When their FDD came out and people saw what their average revenues were and the number of units they had, a lot of people saw opportunity for them to do the same, to be either overtake them or become second in line, whatever it is. So people rush to market. But like I said, it doesn't matter how much money you have backing you. It doesn't matter how much, it doesn't matter how many stores you have. If you do it too fast, you're going to miss some steps. And we see it all the time, and especially when it comes to franchising food. A lot of these things are trends and they're bubbles and they pop. We had the cupcake trend. We had the froyo trend. We've had all these different trends within the dessert industry.
Right.
And a lot of these companies didn't make it. Now, there are people that still exist in that industry. Those are the people that took their time. And that's what we're doing. We're taking our time. We're not rushing. People ask us to franchise all the time. Franchise your business. Let's do this. And one, we're not in this just for the money.
Right.
So my life isn't going to change if I make $1 billion. I'm still going to be the same person. I'm still going to live the same. I'm a simple guy. I'm going to live the same exact way. I want to make impact. I want to make real change within this industry. And I want to do it the right way. The last thing that I want to do is to franchise and get a franchisee that works their entire lives or pulls out a loan, gives us their life savings, and I didn't do my due diligence and they don't make it. I would feel extremely bad. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. That's not what we want to do. We want to give them the best opportunity. And if that ever comes, we want to make sure that we feel good with it.
Well, your wisdom in business, you never cease to amaze me, but your philosophy, it is sustainable the way you guys are approaching it. So my hat's off to you, my friend. And I appreciate you taking out some time to share your story. It's extremely interesting and very motivating for sure.
No, I appreciate you. And I'll leave you with this. I stole this from Justin Forsett. He says it in his speeches. He says, if you think you're too big to serve, then you're just not big enough to lead.
Oh, I love that.
And that just means life's about service. None of this is about us. I think a lot of the times people get into things and their intentions are to self-serve.
Right. You
won't do anything worth a crap if you self-serve.
Right.
We were put on this earth to serve each other, to make sure our neighbors were better. And that's how we live personally. That's how we operate as a business. And we want to make people better, not just ourselves. So,
well, it looks like you're doing it, my friend. And you and Marissa are amazing people. And you have another child on the way, so you have your hands full, both with
9 weeks.
Life.
Yeah, 9 weeks left. 9 weeks before another bundle of joys here. We're gonna wait to see what it is. We already have a boy and a girl, and we're extremely blessed and thankful. And I can't wait.
Well, you're a blessing, my friend. Again, thank you so much for your time and sharing.
Yes, sir. You have a good one, Andy.
All right. Thank you.